Hello everyone, we're back again with another critique video. Today on the channel we have Matt Walsh, again, in fact. See, Matt Walsh is a Daily Wire political commentator and podcast host. Unfortunately, what Matt has now done is he's built his business model on being a callous figure, not only towards inane left-wing pundits, let's say, but also to rational, sensible arguments and claims, and also people. And that was it's been evinced in my last video that I did on him quite a while ago, but also this one. I have not watched it yet, but I did see his tweets on Twitter, or, well, the platform formerly known as Twitter, about calories in, calories out, and weight loss. So I decided to react to the full video of where this actually originated from in his show. And once again, I have not watched it yet, so we will jump directly into that. But first, just like always, please subscribe to the Patreon if you haven't already to gain access to 1 week early uploads, ad-free content, uncensored content, and 1 extra video per week, and also buy my book Contraindicated if you haven't already as well. And with that being said, let's jump right into this video. Can't wait.
Yesterday, before the Trump verdict swept away all of their conversations on social media, I had been involved in a debate about obesity. And here was the question at the center of this discussion on Twitter. Can you lose weight simply by eating less and exercising more?
Yes, you can. However, as we've seen now, especially whenever you observe things like biochemistry and how the human physiology or the human physiological system works, that is not indicated for human physiology, and it is also predicated upon a false model of how the human body works. Okay, it's completely inapplicable to human physiology, but we'll get to that in a minute, I suspect.
Now, if you're a sane person, this does...
Okay, so this is an example of your callous nature and your sarcastic, haughty behavior that you exhibit on your channel, which in many cases is indicated inappropriate and quite humorous, in fact. But only if you are correct in what you are saying, and only if you actually know a lick of human physiology and, in fact, physics, which once again we'll get to very soon, I suspect.
This does not sound like much of a debate at all.
Well, it's not really a debate per se. I just told you that, yes, you can. The way you phrased it is the key part of this. You are able to, in fact. Yes. Does that mean that it's indicated for human physiology? Does that mean that it will invariably work? No, to both of those. The latter argument that I just made was covered in a video that was released yesterday at the time of recording this on YouTube. Okay? So, again, we'll get into it later, though.
We might as well debate whether walking is best achieved by putting one foot in front of another.
No, that is an inappropriate parallel being drawn here. In fact, actually, in the last video I did, you did the exact same thing. You draw inappropriate parallels and therefore strawman construction in terms of your arguments, and therefore it's irresponsible and misrepresentative of the argument at hand. That being that it is not invariably the case that will happen. Again, we'll get to it.
Or whether there's a noticeable causal link between putting your hand on a hot stove and sustaining a burn on that same hand.
Covered that.
These do not sound like debatable topics, and yet...
They aren't, but the one that you just put forth actually is, in fact.
And yet, people were debating it. Lots of people.
Rightfully so, in fact, and we'll get to it.
Including and especially those who fashion themselves experts.
Yes, we know the problem with the term experts. It means nothing. It is a vapid, meretricious, empty term. It has no substance, no value anymore at all, in fact. None.
Now, it began when I posted a response to a tweet from the account Raw Egg Nationalists, and he linked to a study from 1992 finding that obese people tend to underreport the amount of food they eat and overreport the amount of exercise they get. And then they complain that they can't lose weight.
Yes, we just talked about in the video that was released yesterday and that premiered yesterday on my YouTube channel at the time of recording this video about how cortisol and other hormones can interfere with the ability of losing weight. Really, we mean fat and water, Matt, because weight is a very, very vague term as it can be made up of bone density, connective tissue, muscle mass, etc., etc., due to the stripping of muscle that comes off of the body while also raising the propensity and causing the maintenance of fat stores on the body. In fact, Matt, hormones get in the way because hormones are signaling molecules, and that's what the hell they do. Okay? We'll get to it.
They complain that they're doing everything they can to lose weight. According to the study, they're not doing the things that they claim they're doing. And so that's what...
Yes, because obese people are guilted into feeling like absolute shit, Matt. Feeling like pieces of shit for being overweight or obese, okay? Not a good strategy. What happens is, yes, they will be more inclined to underreport the amount that they eat and overreport the amount of exercise they do. You know, the type of exercise can also interfere with the ability for the body concerned to relinquish its fat stores, to utilize them, really. You are not an expert, quote unquote. Again, that term doesn't really mean anything at all nowadays, but for the sake of the argument, in anything. You made video commentary in your car and you were given a position at the Daily Wire. Congratulations. I have no problem with that. But what that means is that you don't know anything about this topic. And if you get things wrong about the topic because you don't know what the hell you're talking about with respect to it, you should just keep your mouth shut and do everyone a favor by doing such a thing. And at this point, Matt, given the amount of follies that you've engaged in and exhibited in the past, well, 6 months, really, maybe a little more than that, you are incorrigible, in my opinion.
Wait. And I said this. A bunch of people on here got mad at me recently because I said that literally anyone can lose weight.
Okay, so as soon as you say literally outside of the context of the literal definition in order to add punctuation to your statements, you've automatically lost a significant amount of credibility. Okay? Before we even get into this, but okay.
Eating less and exercising more, but it's obviously true.
Okay, they can. Can is not the same as invariably will. Okay? And that's the key here. It is not the most conducive approach. Hormonal optimization is, and we'll get to it. I'm waiting for you to say the words. I'm waiting for you to say the words so that I can snap and reflexively go off on this point. This trite and banal and insipid point.
Overweight people remain overweight even with dieting and exercise is asinine. It's actually a scientific impossibility.
No, it isn't, Matt. Get into the science, why don't you? Since you know so much about it, okay? What you're trying to imply here is that it is a physical impossibility to gain weight if someone completely stopped eating. That is true because mass has to come from somewhere, okay? However, if the law that you're tacitly referring to, that you're elusively referring to, were actually a law that were applicable to human beings, not only would you invariably lose weight by not consuming anything, you would also invariably gain weight commensurate with the surplus that you're consuming, which does not occur per se. We'll get to it.
That's what I said. Pretty straightforward.
And also wrong.
Yes, unassailable.
False. It is assailable, and we'll get to it.
You might think.
No, you might think it if you're a moron.
Then came the indignant responses. Let me read and there were a lot of them, but let me just read a few of them for you. And we'll start with this from metabolic health coach and public speaker Valerie Ann Smith. She posted, quote, "Asinine? What's asinine is the patronizing attitude and your poor understanding of the metabolic challenges faced by those struggling with obesity."
Correct. That's unassailable. That is correct. You're patronizing, callous, insouciant behavior towards anybody that disagrees with you. You are a disgrace to the competent and respectful and humble commentators that you work with.
Thankfully, we have a whole community that cares and can offer real help solutions, even in the face of your continued comments.
Correct again, Valerie Ann Smith.
Yes, even in the face of my comments. My comments that are such an obstacle in the way. Even with my comments, they're able to somehow find a way to continue on. How brave of them. And there are some themes in this response that we'll notice in all of the others. Like this one from a guy named Chris Cornell. I'm not mad that you appear to have no idea about the challenges faced by a large percentage of people struggling with obesity.
Okay, that is appropriate sarcasm, Matt. It's a taste of your own medicine.
Actually be helpful when an influencer with such a poor understanding of an issue confidently speaks out with such patronizing certainty.
It can be. Unfortunately, Matt has such a large following and such a sycophantic following as well that I don't know about him speaking upon it in such an irresponsible and incorrect way being conducive to growing our community and allowing it to fructify. I do not know about that one. A little unsure about it. I am familiar with Chris Cornell, actually, I believe, as well.
Gives an opportunity for others to offer potentially helpful information. Meanwhile, a professor at Duke named Herman Pontzer, who, by the way, looks exactly like a Herman Pontzer, said this. Here, as in most of his work, he misses the point. Sure, calorie deficits will lead to weight loss.
There's no such thing as a calorie deficit unless you are referring to hypothermia, because calories are units of heat energy, informally speaking, and heat energy has no mass, and therefore can affect the mass balance of the human body up or down by 0. There's a little taste of what we're going to get into today. And also, once again, even if you mean mass restriction in terms of the amount of food one consumes, depending on the deficit, no, it won't. Okay, you cannot say will because that implies invariability. Covered that.
Problem is achieving that through diet and exercise is incredibly hard.
No, this is ridiculous. It is not hard to achieve weight loss in the form of fat and water loss through diet and exercise. The problem is the way in which one conforms their diet to achieving such a thing and the type of exercise people engage in. Matt, you are under the assumption that the diet that one consumes doesn't matter as long as you eat less, which in many cases is actual damage that you are encouraging people engage in. And the same thing with the type of exercise. Doesn't matter the type of exercise. Just run a mile, jog one. You don't know how these different behaviors affect the body. Okay? We'll get into it.
Is mathematically correct, but there's nothing simple about it.
No, this is a ridiculous tweet. That is a ridiculous tweet. And now what you've done is you've allowed Matt to exploit this ridiculousness and extrapolate it to every single person that replied to him in this tweet in order to effectuate other people's perception of our obtuseness, let's say. That is what you've now done. And that is what he was going to do. Ruthlessly. Because that's what Matt does. And that is his tactic.
Also, there's this from somebody named Liz. I wish it were this simple, Matt. Even if you are thoroughly convinced you're correct, imagine for a moment what it would be like if you did eat less, weigh less, track your intake, test for ketones, limit carbs, exercise, including resistance training, and you were still obese and not losing, sometimes even gaining weight. And then imagine the judgment from others who don't believe you. PCOS.
That's actually a good point. Typically, the behaviors, though, of restricting carb intake and eating a ketogenic diet in the form of a carnivorous diet or something close to that, and also engaging in resistance training, that behavior is typically different from the eat less, move more crowd, however. So for someone exhibiting both of those behaviors to still be having that issue, I mean, it's possible because if you are eating way less, that could be a problem even if you are on a ketogenic diet. It's not the best example in my opinion, but her overall point is correct that many people are engaging in that behavior and they are still seeing an issue. They are not losing weight and they feel like it's their fault, and it doesn't help that these commentators like you will say the same damn thing because of your callous nature and whether you realize it or not, your disdain for these people, whether they are at fault or not, just because you don't see the outcome that you believe will invariably be seen if someone adopts your ideology and implements it into their lives in terms of behavioral changes, such as diet and exercise in this context. Okay, whether you realize that or not.
Polycystic ovary syndrome it also often causes infertility.
Yeah, so that's a hormonal issue, and that's exactly what she's referring to. Hormones are signaling molecules. They signal to the body what to do and what not to do, given the context and given the stimuli that is imposed or that are imposed onto the body concerned, onto the individual concerned. Okay?
Would you also insist that someone is just too uptight to get pregnant? Be grateful that your body works well with the efforts you make. Reward for the same effort is a gift not everybody is given. Okay. You get the idea. So lots more of those came from, and lots of people saying that I'm oversimplifying, and there's a lot of people that...
You are oversimplifying. You're not just oversimplifying. You're actually getting things absolutely incorrect, on Twitter especially. Okay?
In fact, someone just said to me today that there are plenty of people who rigidly stick to a diet and exercise 5 days a week and yet do not lose a single pound.
Yes, that is possible, especially considering the fact that if they're working out 5 days a week, they are inducing incessant inflammation without surcease, and inflammation affects the hormones of the body in a negative way by increasing chronically elevated cortisol levels or resulting in chronically elevated cortisol levels, which if you knew what cortisol even was, you'd understand the problem there, and increasing water retention because of the swelling that occurs through the release or the spreading apart of junctions, cell junctions within the body to allow for the flow of cytokines, macrophages, and other immune cells to invaginate themselves within those areas. Okay, among other things, in fact. See, if you knew anything about physiology and biochemistry, you'd actually understand that yourself. But you don't, because you're an arrogant, haughty
That's a claim that somebody made to me.
Yes, that is a claim that someone rightfully has the right and the rationale to tell you and say to you.
Now, there's a fundamental confusion on display with all of these.
Oh, tell me about it. There is a fundamental confusion on display, Matt. Tell me about it.
With all of these people who, while suffering from this confusion, are nonetheless accusing me of failing to be a sophisticated thinker who can...
Yes, because you are not sophisticated in your thinking, Matt. In fact, even on your show, which I used to enjoy, it wasn't really the most sophisticated thinking. It's mockery. That's what it is, okay?
Who can pick up on fine distinctions. Here's the distinction that they, and many other people with their view on this topic, somehow miss.
Oh, tell us about it. Tell us what we miss, Matt.
The words simple and hard are not mutually exclusive.
Okay, straw man. No one ever said that. Okay?
Just because a thing is hard, that doesn't mean that it's complicated.
Great. That is correct. That is a straw man argument. Okay? In order to aggrandize yourself in the perception of ignorant followers. Okay? Or other callous ones.
This is my point about weight loss. It isn't complicated. It is very simple.
It is simple, but your idea of what is conducive to effectuating it and what you believe to be the most indicated approach to effectuating it and manifesting it in someone is incorrect and unfounded.
It's one of the simplest things in the world.
Bullshit.
Burn more calories than...
How do you burn something that is the result of burning something, Matt? You don't know what a calorie is. You wouldn't know the first law of thermodynamics if it hit you upside the chin. Okay? You have no idea what its application is in the real world, because if you did, you'd understand that the heat equivalence principle of the first law of thermodynamics is not applicable to open systems, that being, well, one of them being a human body that exchanges both matter, something real and tangible, and energy in and out of the system. Okay? Your Google search will tell you that it's applicable. It's a semantics issue. Technically, it's applicable. It is not sufficiently applicable, because you have to consider the law of conservation of mass into that equation, which means if you are going to form a different equation, well, that's exactly what you've done. You've formed a different equation from the first law of thermodynamics, and therefore it's not the first law of thermodynamics. You cannot consume a calorie because calories are the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water around a closed thermodynamic system by 1 degree Celsius, and is a measurement of kinetic activity, or the movement of the molecules in that water, that movement being caused by photons of a certain wavelength interacting with the surrounding water after being released from the rapid combustion of a food within said bomb calorimeter via a massive electrical current, thus causing rotations, vibrations, and translations. They are heat energy units, informally speaking, and the human body absorbs mass, not energy, because energy has no mass and cannot be brought to rest, which means it cannot affect the mass balance of the human body up or down at all. You do not understand the laws of thermodynamics. In fact, you are probably someone that says the law of thermodynamics and thinks they know what the they're talking about, when in reality there's 4 of them. There isn't the law of thermodynamics. There's 4 laws, and you're referring to the first one, calories in, calories out. That's the case in a closed thermodynamic system. The change in internal energy of a closed system is equal to the quantity of heat supplied to that system minus the work done by that system, where the internal energy of the system seems to mean the amount of energy required to set that system up for the undertaking of such work. We are not closed systems, Matt. You don't understand human physiology. You don't understand physics. You don't know what a hormone is. Shut your trap. Let the people that understand what they're talking about in this space talk about it. Go back to mocking leftists.
Take in. You will lose weight.
False. Not the case. You don't take in calories, Matt. You arrogant you callous
will. This is physics. It's a law of nature.
Can you believe the arrogance exhibited from this man here? This man who wants to make himself be perceived as virile and burly by acting callous and insouciant towards people that in many cases are well-meaning. I understand that this profession will make you cynical because of the idiocy that you are inundated with on a day-to-day basis. I understand that, and I sympathize. I empathize with that, in fact, not simply sympathize. I'm in a space that has the tendency to do the same thing and impose the same challenges upon me. The problem is giving into that, and what you are doing in this video is exhibiting your inappropriate cynicism and insouciance, and it's a damn shame. It's also embarrassing, and you should be embarrassed, Matt.
True of everyone, everywhere, for all time.
False. And if you understood physics, you'd actually understand that that isn't the case. Okay?
Okay, it's the reason why there has never been a single...
Really?
It's the reason why there has never been a single case of somebody being stranded on a desert island for months with little to no food, and then when they're rescued, everyone's shocked to see that they somehow have put on weight.
Once again, to allude to what I said in the beginning, if the law were invariably a law that were applicable to human beings, or at least sufficiently applicable, not only would someone lose weight by completely limiting their food intake to something that is almost completely absent, they would also invariably gain weight commensurate with the amount of caloric surplus they're consuming, which isn't the case. Not only that, even if you believe and say, okay, Eddie, fine, you're right. However, at the end of the day, if you restrict your massive food intake enough, you then will lose weight. That is the case. And depending on the person, you'd have to limit it more than someone else because of biodiversity and hormonal levels, by the way, and the myriad of other factors that come into play when talking about human physiology. That is not indicated for human beings and can wreck people's metabolism.
During the experience. Never happened once in history.
Covered that.
It's why everybody is skinny in third world countries. It's why every contestant on every survival show ever has lost weight.
Yeah, and is that indicated to do? Are you encouraging people to starve themselves in order to lose weight? In fact, actually you are, whether you realize that or not. Even if it's not complete starvation, we're talking about restricting the massive food intake and to some degree restricting the body of essential nutrients it needs to survive, or at least adequate supply of them. Even if you're getting all of them in some degree, it may not be sufficient, especially when you're restricting the massive food that you consume. That will disrupt hormones almost invariably, and that is why it is not invariably the case that someone restricting their massive food intake slightly by what they perceive to be a couple calories or something, a couple hundred calories, will lose weight. Okay, then some people therefore will have to restrict their massive food intake even more and also over-exercise, and that will destroy people's metabolism and their health in many cases. Okay, RE, biggest loser. 80+% of those people gain the weight back. But of course, Matt, you would say that that's because of their lack of tenacity and discipline, okay? Because of your callous, insouciant, offensive, and insolent nature. Okay? Anyway, covered that.
And these examples shouldn't be necessary. If you eat less and exercise more, you will lose.
False. Whatever you're going to say. Will, false. But we already covered that because I already do know what you're going to say. And it's just false. That is not true. You would have to restrict your massive food intake drastically. And if that's what you're referring to, then yes, you will lose weight. And you will also destroy your physiology in the same breath at the same time. Okay? You are a danger to obese people and overweight people. You do not understand science. You do not understand physics. Don't pretend to be an expert in this field because you're not. In fact, don't pretend to be an expert in any field because you're not.
Lose weight. You will. You will. Every person who claims to be an exception is lying. You are.
No, this is what you do. Do you understand how insensitive you're actually being to people that have tried to do such a thing by measuring or calculating their basal metabolic rate and calculating exactly how many calories to the number that they are consuming each day and exercising extremely consistently, only to be left fatigued, lethargic, stressed beyond belief, with even worse blood markers and performance than they were exhibiting before they went on this rigorous routine and embarked upon it? Imagine you did that and you were told by people like you that it's your fault and you're not doing good enough. Egregious, Matt, and unforgivable, inappropriate, and irresponsible.
Lying. You are a liar, all of you. And you know it. Well, you say that, Matt, but no, I exercised 5 days a week and stuck to a diet originally and didn't lose a pound. No, you didn't. You're lying.
You. You are arrogant beyond belief, Matt. Look at this display here. Pathetic.
Liar. You exercise 5 days a week consistently and didn't lose a pound? What the hell kind of exercise are you doing exactly?
Probably steady state, moderate intensity cardio exercise for 30 minutes every single day on a treadmill, which lowers bone density because traveling longer distances almost necessitates low body weight. And from a human physiological perspective or human physiology perspective, that means in many cases sacrificing bone density, borne out in multiple different studies that show that endurance athletes typically do present with low bone density. The upregulation of cortisol to a chronically elevated degree, which is responsible for endogenously creating glucose via gluconeogenesis by the production of the enzymes that regulate that pathway, two in particular, PepCK and another one, not sure, can't remember, that will release elevated glucose or more glucose into the bloodstream that is oftentimes in excess, which will then cause the glucose to be transmuted into fatty acids, esterified to a glycerol molecule to form triglycerides, which are fats necessarily designed to be stored when they are created, as well as the inflammation that causes from working out 5 days a week without surcease and only having a cessation of it on the weekends. Healing and increase in strength occurs on rest days, not in the gym, Matt. So once again, Matt, right off, okay? You need to get your ego in check, sunshine.
I mean, I guess we need to maybe we need to explain what we mean by exercise.
Actually, yes, you do, Matt, because there are different types. See, one of them, properly tenured and properly fortified resistance training, whether it be with variable resistance of quality or static weights, is conducive to increasing muscle mass on your body and therefore increasing basal metabolic rate. And also, during the exercise itself, is not conducive to stripping bone density off your body. In fact, it's conducive to doing the exact opposite. And it's also conducive, if you are on a ketogenic diet, to expediting the fat loss process because it requires the body to tap into triglyceride stores for glucose production and also fatty acid production in the beginning of the exercise, actually, for beta oxidation and also ketogenesis. Okay? That's human physiology, though. Like not pseudoscientific nonsense and demagoguery.
Like, are you just driving to the gym and walking in and then turning around and leaving and calling that exercise? Yeah, if that's what you're doing, you're not going to lose weight.
It's just ridiculous. This is just desperate, honestly.
If you're doing any kind of like actual exercise 5 days a week, or even 3 days a week, even 2 days a week, and you're sticking to a diet, yes, you will lose weight.
No, not invariably. And that's your arrogance talking. That's your ego and hubris talking. That's your haughty, arrogant, pretentious ass of a personality talking. Okay?
100%.
Covered that.
100%.
No, not 100%. False. You are incorrect here. Absolutely erroneous.
And if you claim otherwise, I know you're a liar because...
What a f***ing asshole. I mean, seriously, what a f***ing asshole. You know, it's one thing to be an asshole like this, like I am, in fact, in my videos, at least in the reaction videos, and be right. And it's another thing to be completely wrong. It's amazing the hubris being exuded here from him.
Because here's how I know. Because you are a human being existing in the same reality as me, which means that you are subject to the same laws of nature that I am.
But you don't know what the application of those laws are. Just go out and say the first law of thermodynamics, why don't you? Why don't you just go ahead and say it so I can eviscerate it again? Why don't you go ahead and say it and act like you actually know what the hell it even means? Why don't you go ahead and do that, Matt?
This is, again, an indisputable law of nature.
Covered that, Matt. Rewind my video.
Eat less, exercise more, and you lose weight.
False. Not invariably. And in order to actually effectuate that indefinitely, in many cases, you are going to destroy your metabolism. So good on you for telling people to do that. It's all just discipline, guys. It's all just discipline. I am not saying that discipline is not important in everyday life. It's this over-disciplinary, sort of onerous imposition onto people that is the problem. There is too much of a good thing. That's a law of reality. That's a fact of reality right there, okay? There is such thing as too much discipline, okay? It starts to turn into self-abuse, which is what you are encouraging. If we needed any proof that you've never gone through this in your entire life before, here it is.
You must lose weight. You cannot not lose weight. I don't care what's going on with your thyroid, your hormones, your...
Exactly, because you don't know what physiology has to do with body composition. And that's the thing. He doesn't know because he doesn't give two f***s. He doesn't give two f***ing shits. That's the problem.
Diet and exercise will lead to weight loss.
Define diet and define exercise, because you're not defining what the hell you mean. All of those different diets that are out there, all of those different types of exercises that are out there, or exercise routines, all have different effects on the body. They all have different effects on the body, Matt. Wow.
If you say that you've tried everything and you haven't lost weight, I know that you're not telling the truth. Because
can you imagine being that insensitive and callous? Can you imagine it? What a
haven't tried everything because you obviously haven't tried the one single and simplest thing that actually works, which is to eat.
You really think that those people haven't tried the most simple thing? Goodness. I guess there is an argument to make about it, to be as forgiving as possible. There is a case to make that perhaps people don't try the ostensibly most simple thing, eating less and moving more, because they want to justify them eating whatever the hell they want, right? And simply just exercising it off, etc., etc. So I understand that. But for the most part, I think that most people, if they care enough, they are doing that first and foremost. It's always eat less, move more, eat less, move more, eat less, move more. So, because you still allow yourself to have all the insalubrious foods, just to a lesser amount. And so, if anything, that's actually a cheat in and of itself. So, of course, I would think most people would go to that first. But anyway, you have to conduct a study on that.
Move more. Is it hard? Yes. Okay, if we could move past the like, does this work question, which is so insane. It's like, the idea that it doesn't work is a fantasy on the level with the tooth fairy.
No, it's not, Matt. And I just explained why it's not. You f***ing arrogant, insolent, impudent I just covered this. Rewind my video.
If we could all move past it.
Well, we'll move past it when people like you stop making fools of themselves and beguiling people into believing something that is not invariably the case, and into destroying the metabolisms as well.
I think I'm being patronizing. I'm only being patronizing.
No, you are being patronizing and you're being insulting because that's what you have built your business model upon, okay? What I think has happened, to allude to the beginning of this before we even started reacting to this video, is that you built your business upon being a callous, insensitive and now you have to uphold that character no matter what on your show, okay? I understand that because that's how you get your money, okay? That doesn't mean that I'm going to not be as vituperating and as chastising, okay? Behavior is behavior and fallaciousness is fallaciousness.
This claim that a person can actually eat a healthy diet.
Keyword can, they can. Also, define healthy diet, Matt. Healthy is a term and characteristic that can be bestowed and conferred upon a diet or food or something and something else, only if that food has been shown in studies to be an ameliorating factor causally in disease processes or illnesses, etc., etc. Okay, and there are no studies to inform upon the health of any food or external factor as that relates to any aspect of human nutrition science or anything relating to inferential statistics over any given period of time throughout the entire time inferential statistics has even existed. So healthy diet is an opinion, okay? What you're really trying to say is indicated diet for human beings. That's what you should be saying. And if you watch my other videos, which I encourage you do, you'll find that out very quickly. And that diet being indicated for human beings necessarily means that it is the most auspicious and conducive approach to achieving optimal body composition. In fact, even without exercise, not to say that exercise should not be engaged in, because it absolutely should, as long as it's properly tenured and properly fortified.
Exercise and not lose a single pound.
Look at that. The mocking, this condescending, contemptuous look and laughter from him. It's amazing. Once again, Matt, go f yourself.
I'm being patronizing about that because it's insane and you're lying and you need to stop it.
Okay, so at this point, even beforehand, but especially at this point, you owe every single person that is overweight and obese who is actually struggling to achieve optimal body composition via the methods that you are putting forth and promulgating to be the most auspicious an apology. A heartfelt, sincere apology for exhibiting arrogance on full display. What an ass.
And you're lying to yourself most of all.
No, you are lying to these people, and you're lying to yourself when you say to yourself in your head or even out in the real world to other people that you understand the laws of physics, the basic ones, the laws of thermodynamics in this respect. You are a liar.
But if we could move past that, if we could all just acknowledge that.
We'll move past it when you stop acting like an arrogant and when you actually get your information correct and veracious.
Yes, of course, that's how it works for everyone ever in history.
Covered that.
Then we could get to the other conversation about the difficulties of actually putting, not the complications, but the difficulties, the hardships, rather, maybe is a better word, of actually putting that into practice. Because
go and talk to Jillian Michaels about your absolutely contraindicated, insalubrious advice. Stop espousing it on your show, okay? You and Jillian Michaels and Lane Norton, in fact, would get along great.
It is hard. Being disciplined is hard. Putting in
covered the discipline part. We covered that, Matt, didn't we?
Into anything is hard.
Look at this patronizing attitude. This patronizing didactic attitude. Give me a break, Matt. We see directly through it. You are an arrogant, haughty, pretentious dick.
Not doing something that you want to do, like say not gorging yourself on French fries or cheesecake or whatever, is hard. And it's especially hard when you live in a society that encourages constant and unrestrained consumption.
That is a problem. Our philosophy around food is a problem. The current idea around food being something to implement into your life as an act of enjoyment in and of itself is a problem. We eat to live, not the other way around. Food, when you eat it, should be enjoyable, but you should not go to food seeking enjoyment. We now think of food as its own source of enjoyment. That is a problem. No, you do exactly what we've been doing for millions of years. You eat one large meal a day of indicated foods for human beings, maybe a tiny bit here and there of things that aren't per se, like in my case, yellow mustard or something, maybe some black pepper on your steak, whatever. You savor it in that moment and you do it again the next day. You do not go out with your friends to a restaurant and use the food there as your source of enjoyment and your entertainment for the night. That is a problem. That does not mean that you are correct in what you are saying here, Matt. Absolutely ridiculous. Are we done yet? Almost.
Conceivable form. You are encouraged and enabled to be in a constant state of consumption.
Yes, and in fact, not only are you encouraged to be in a constant state of consumption, you are able to not have to hunt your food to eat it. You don't even have to walk. You drive up to the drive-thru window and say, give me my fattening French fries, please. And they say, enjoy your meal. Or places like In-N-Out, you gonna be eating in the car?
It was a whole lot easier for someone 100 years ago to not overeat, which is also why there weren't very many fat people 100 years ago.
No, actually, Matt, that is a multifaceted issue. Carbohydrates and seed oils were not really available or readily consumed and frequently consumed back then as they are today. You said, which is why. That is a cause and effect claim, and that was an irresponsible one to make. Multifaceted issue. Many things have changed over the course of the last 100 or so years, in fact. Okay? So once again, irresponsibility on full display here. And that's an opinion. You need to state it as such.
And that demonstrates yet again the link between eating, exercise, and the...
Link is a cause and effect term as well. Also, once again, straw man. I know what you're going to say. We just heard what you were going to say. I paused it mid-sentence. But there is, in my opinion, since link is a cause and effect statement and there's no studies to inform upon cause and effect within the area of inferential statistics, between diet and exercise. But see what you did there? That's a straw man. Because what you mean by diet is restricting food intake no matter what kind of food you're eating. And exercise being any kind of exercise. You need to be specific.
Of lard on your body.
There's no lard on your body. There's triglycerides stored within adipocytes and some muscle cells on your body, in fact. Mainly adipocytes.
So, it is hard.
Yeah. Patronizing right there. I mean, I really don't need to say anything else at this point. I've covered everything. Binge my calories playlist on my channel. Watch it.
Yes. But it's, and I'll even go so far as to admit, because it's clearly true, that it's harder for some people than it is for others.
If you're referring to their mental fortitude as being the only factor that differs in that respect, you'd be false and incorrect. Their physiology has a role to play, and I covered that. Many people, in order to actually achieve what you are saying will be achieved by adopting your ideology in terms of diet and lifestyle behavior that should be implemented and inculcated into people, is to restrict their massive food intake even more than someone else, which is contraindicated and insalubrious for human beings.
It might be a lot harder for you than it is for me.
Wow. I mean, seriously, the patronizing attitude of this individual here. It's ridiculous.
Everyone's metabolism is different.
You don't know what metabolism even f***ing is. Goodness me. I mean, really, you want to talk about asinine, Matt. It's you.
You might lose weight at different... You will lose weight if you do these things, but you might lose it...
No, not necessarily. In fact, Matt, we covered this.
And all that kind of stuff. There are some people who might just be like naturally more disciplined. Naturally, it might be easier for...
We already covered the mental fortitude part.
People to follow a strict diet. Or there are people who work out a lot and they really enjoy it. And so because they enjoy it, it's easier for them to do. There are other people who might get into a habit of working out and they might stick to it for a year, but never really like it. While there are other people that go to the gym and they just love every second of it. And yes, if you love it, it's easier to do than if you don't. So like all of that is true. But it's still simple. And
it is simple, but you don't know what the indicated approach is to achieving optimal body composition. Because if you did, you'd actually understand that it doesn't require exercise whatsoever. We are not designed to get fat while eating our species-appropriate, species-specific foods. Even without exercise, and even while sitting on your ass. You shouldn't be sitting on your ass, and you should be active. 3 days a week maximum of resistance training that is properly tenured and properly fortified. If you want more information on that, please go ahead and check out a Patreon exclusive video that I uploaded a while ago at this point. It is Patreon exclusive though, so you will have to be subscribed.
In life, the simple things are often the hardest. To be an all-around decent, productive, honest, hard-working, healthy person is hard. And it's also, again, extremely simple.
It is, but you don't understand the indicated approach to that. We covered that, didn't we?
We all know how to be that sort of person. We all know...
No, that's not true, actually.
Sort of choices to make in any given situation to get ourselves closer to that ideal.
No, not everyone does, in fact, actually, Matt. The hell are you talking about?
If we don't make those choices, it's not because we're confused by complexities and nuances. It's because it's
Well, sometimes that is why, actually. What the hell are you talking about?
hard. And we don't want to do the hard thing.
Patronizing. Once again. Patronizingly didactic here.
What you see people doing on this subject, it's the same thing that people do in so many other facets of life. They try to complicate what should be very uncomplicated. When it comes to obesity, if you can convince yourself that it's complicated, then you have an excuse to remain obese.
Okay, so what you're saying is that people justify their addictions or attempt to do so, and that's definitely correct. That is a fact of reality. That does not mean that your philosophy is correct. We already covered this. You're correct on this, but your conclusions that you've arrived at are fallacious and erroneous. Cover that, though.
Sure, you'd like to lose weight, but losing weight is such a complex, convoluted, tangled web.
It's not.
You would lose weight if only you could figure out how. If only it were possible.
There are some people like that, yes, Matt, but that is not all of the people that are expressing lamentations, let's say, or lamenting the fact that they have tried what you have put forth here today with no success. We covered why. You need to get your hormones under control. I'm not going to talk about how to do that really in this video. If anyone else that is viewing this would like to learn, please watch the videos on my channel. You will learn very quickly. Binge the channel. That's probably your best method of action, best approach.
If only it were that simple. But it isn't, you say, so what can you do but eat another muffin and continue on?
No, you shouldn't eat muffins. See, this is the problem, Matt. Your straw man f***ing arguments and your misrepresentations. Misrepresentation is probably the better word.
This is the rationalizing that people do. They hide behind.
Well, that's not rational, though. But we covered this, Matt. So what I want you to do, Matt, is I want you to rewind to the very beginning of this video and watch it again. And again and again and again until you f***ing get it. And until you get your ego under control.
Complexities. They take refuge in the intricacies and complications that they've invented in their heads. It's a lie.
What you've invented in your head, Matt, is the fact that you are competent to speak upon any f***ing topic, and you understand every f***ing topic, and that you're better than every f***ing person that has ever walked the face of the f***ing earth. It's clear. It is demonstrable and patent on your f***ing channel and your show.
It's all a way to avoid the simple thing. And avoiding the simple thing is now the American way. At least it has become the American way. Which is also how we've become one of the fattest nations to ever exist on the planet.
That is a hormonal dysregulation problem, and part of it is to do with a massive supply and, well, superfluous supply of food. It isn't food, okay? That is part of it. I'm not pretending like it isn't, and we just covered that earlier towards the end of this video, okay? But you were completely neglecting to mention the hormonal aspects of this, which in many cases, and in my opinion, are vastly more of a problem. Honestly, that's not even an opinion. That's just a fact, because biochemistry explains our bodies. The first law of thermodynamics doesn't.
And that is why the people pretending that weight loss is complicated are all today canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my...
No one wants to see what else you have to say from an arrogant charlatan like you. Nobody wants to see it, Matt. What I want to see, Matt, is you apologize to everyone that you patronized and insulted here in your video and on Twitter. You owe it to them. That's what's indicated, and I'll be waiting for it. I'll be waiting a long time, I suspect. Anyway, with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, please subscribe to the channel, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are a viewer that came to this channel, or are a new viewer rather, and you'd like to learn more about how to actually optimize body composition, I suggest reading my book, Contraindicated, first and foremost, really. A closer look and revision of mainstream health axioms that have perpetuated illness, disorder, and disease for over a century. Audiobook coming soon. I'm working on that. I'm almost done. And also binging my channel. If you'd like to see even more videos from me to learn even more about it, please subscribe to my Patreon as well. There's a $2 a month tier, a $5 a month tier, and an $8 a month tier in order to gain access to everything that I alluded to in the beginning. And also, the link on the bottom of the screen. What is that? Well, that is a link to a site that sells amazing products from an amazing company known as Cerule. If you'd like to learn about what those products do, please refer to the link in the top right corner of the screen, the Cerule Products video that I did, which is a complete elucidation and explanation of what those products are, who should take them, when to take them, etc., etc. And also further migrate to the description to find a video that was done between myself and Professor Bart K on the products in further detail, as well as the company of Cerule itself. Referring to that link and buying a product product will grant you a 10% discount off all of your future orders and free shipping on all of your future orders when signing up for monthly deliveries, which is also quite helpful. Also, if you are someone who doesn't feel like you want to subscribe to the Patreon or have a recurring payment like a monthly Cerule payment, and you still want to donate to my channel in some way to support me, I did, after some requesting, set up a PayPal and a GoFundMe account. It is just an outlet to allow people to donate one-time payments instead of recurring monthly payments. Also, email me at edgoki14@gmail.com if you have any questions about anything, such as how to receive the Cerule products for free, because who in the right mind wouldn't want that? So, with that being said, join me next time when we react to someone that is not as arrogant and insulting as Matt Walsh here, and someone who does not understand the basic principles of physics, that being, for example, the first law of thermodynamics, or the laws of thermodynamics in general. So, till then.